Hi everybody, it's Sid from Cool Movie Gram, your source for everything about cool film. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button, check out my socials, check out my other videos, like and comment, and all the usual stuff. And if you're already doing all of that, thank you and welcome back to the channel. I mean, it's just a great to be back, like being as active as I want to be. Because it's actually, it's just great to see that, my channel's actually getting more traction again, which, it's kind of giving me the hope to kind of like carry on, and I want to be able to do more things. Now, of course, it's February, which of course is Fu-Bruary. So we're going to be talking everything about Kung Fu movies, and what I'm doing is for this year, I've taken the rather strenuous task, which is going to be coming up with my 50 favorite must-see Kung Fu movies of all time. Now, of course, I mean, this list ain't going to be, might not be as popular or might not be as favorable with a lot of people, might stir a bit of controversy, might kind of like piss some people off, but hey, you know what? This is just a personal opinion from someone who actually absolutely loves Kung Fu movies and Hong Kong cinema in general, and an avid film buff. So without further ado, I mean, I'm just going to carry on with this now. So the first video, doing movies 50 to 46. So it's the 5 movies at the bottom of my list. '50 is Shaolin Wooden Men, directed by Lo Wei and Chen Chi-hua, starring Jackie Chan, Ching Kang, and Chen Ping-yu. Now, Little Mute is a student at the Shaolin Temple, training in Kung Fu in order to get revenge against the masked unknown man who killed his father when he was a child. He befriends a prisoner who teaches him a more aggressive, violent form of Kung Fu in order to leave the temple by beating the wooden men, which is mechanical wooden robots, which people have to actually pass through in order to actually be deemed worthy enough to leave the Shaolin Temple and test his skill. Well, yeah, this film was made like in 1976, just after New Fist of Fury for Jackie Chan, when he had signed up with Lo Wei, who had actually kind of like had a five picture contract where he would actually make like a bunch of movies which weren't really that successful. But I mean, Shaolin Wooden Men was like an early apprenticeship for him. This kind of showed the, somewhat of the potential that Jackie Chan had. Now, of course, this was before his Kung Fu comedy days, so there wasn't really much of a comedy, but we kind of get to see him at like pretty much at his start. And I mean, the film is kind of like filled with some really long, extensive, great training sequences. I mean, a lot of which did kind of like inspire like Tarantino's Kill Bill, where you see like Jackie Chan kind of carrying buckets of water up the steps towards the Shaolin Temple, and even the bit when he actually goes through the Wooden Man Hall, and he kind of like makes it pass, and he kind of picks up the pot, and he kind of gets like a tiger and a dragon kind of put on his arms after kind of like getting burnt, like branded into his forearms, which of course was also paid, a tribute was made via John Wick Chapter 4. And yeah, I mean, this film, it's just kind of like, the choreography again is on point by Tommy Lee, who kind of like did kind of explore Jackie Chan's ability more than what his previous film, which was New Fist of Fury, his first movie with the Lo Wei Film Company, which failed to do so. But yeah, this movie itself, I mean, you kind of see him pre kind of like plastic surgery, pre kind of like he had his old teeth and everything. And it's really good, especially when you kind of see how like he evolves from learning this one style which is really aggressive, but he makes it pass through the temple, but then the fact that he has to end up going back because he realizes he's not that good, so he learns like this a different style from one of the Buddhist like Shaolin nuns at the temple, who kind of like teaches him a much more softer, gentle style, and you see him kind of like then kind of improving in different ways. And it's just like when you find the kind of like when he finds out who the person really is, and you see this kind of like really different style to him. And the fact that he doesn't speak throughout much of the movie, he uses his kind of like physicality in order to kind of express his emotions, and he does it in a really good way. I mean, this was just pretty much, without these films, as much as like his low weight era was not really the greatest of all, but even with movies like Shaolin Wooden Men, it showed the potential that Jackie Chan had, that there was something special about him. He was just not just another run-of-the-mill contracted kung fu star. 49 is The Victim. Now, Chang Wing, known as Fatty, he loses a fight to Chung Yao, who's actually a man who's on the run from his adopted brother, because he was adopted to a rich family, but his adoptive older brother is actually lusting and obsessing over his wife. So he ends up leaving the family home and is on the run because his adoptive brother is this evil, nasty man played by Chang Yi. And Chen Ring himself is actually on a mission to kind of find a really good master, but then not everything seems what it seems to be. Now, this was made like by an independent studio headed by Carl Macker. So this was he produced it. He also made a cameo in this movie. He also had cameo appearances by like Lau Kar Wing and a few others, and you even got Wilson Tong in this movie as well. Starring, of course, it stars Lung Ka-yan as the lead hero. And I mean, Sammo Hung as a director did really good in this movie. He was absolutely kind of like on point. The weaponry, the fight choreography is great. I mean, Wilson Tong getting his nickname as the Foot Doctor, as like the main kind of like henchman that he fights at the end of the film, using this kind of like really cool kind of like kicking style. It just still looks amazing. And Lung Ka-yan again goes beast mode at the end. The finale is just like a long kind of uninterrupted kind of barrage of fights, him fighting multiple assailants, breaking backs, breaking bones, everything, just smacking people through. And it's just absolutely it's just such a joy to watch. I mean, the comedy in this film is absolutely hilarious, especially the start of the movie where you see how like Sammo Hung's character beats one character. He says, you should meet my master. And he beats the master, and then he goes to the master's master, which ends up being like a monk. And it's just absolutely just the whole kind of setup of it is really funny. And even where, you see Sammo Hung kind of done up in like a Dracula costume, which actually looks really funny too. And, again, this a film that is kind of crying out for a good Blu-ray release, and I do hope one of the boutique labels, if someone picks this up and just restores this, just to be able to kind of like just watch it in pristine quality. I know there's a fan-made kind of Blu-ray going around, but it's not really as good as one would expect it to be. 48 is Shaolin Mantis, aka Deadly Mantis, directed by Lau Kar Leung from 1978, starring David Chang, Lau Kar Wing, Wilson Tong, and John Chung. Wei Feng is a Han scholar who's with really good kung fu skill who he's sent by the Qing government to kind of infiltrate the house of an anti-Qing rebel. But when he gets there, he falls in love with the rebel's daughter and gets married. But then things kind of, when he decides to kind of trying to leave, in order to kind of leave the house, he has to actually go through beating every member of the family in these different successive styles. But things kind of go sour, where it leaves his wife dead, and he ends up kind of like in the sticks, you'd say, and he ends up developing a style of like the Mantis, which, I mean, in the American title for this film was Deadly Mantis, but it was released by World North All. But of course, the original title is Shaolin Mantis. I don't understand why it was called Shaolin Mantis, because there's not really much involvement of like the Shaolin Temple to do with this. I mean, I know at the start of the movie where, Gordon Liu made his appearance as a monk in a cameo appearance, he kind of like, so must have just been at this, because it was the same year, must have been just on the same, next door, probably filming Lau Kar Leung's other movie, 36 Chamber of Shaolin. So he kind of looks like he just came off the set of that movie. But again, this film, it's great because Lau Kar Leung, he also develops like really good kind of like understanding of the family dynamics and patriarchy, as well as kind of like incorporating some really cool martial arts choreography. Now, David Chang was not actually kind of like known to this style of like this Mantis style for kung fu, but then he actually kind of like was trained by Lau Kar Leung, and he kind of like picked up the style, and he did a really good effective job, especially the open sequence where it's like him again against a white backdrop, where he's kind of like displaying his skill against all these kind of like different kind of like opponents and whatnot, and in great demonstrations. I mean, that's what I love about a lot of these old kung fu movies, especially when they have these multiple opponents, and especially the opening sequences where you see them kind of display like really cool skills. It just kind of draws you in, and it's just like, again, the production value being that it was a Shaw Brothers production. I mean, just looks absolutely stellar. I mean, great sets, and yeah, and definitely, I mean, some really good kind of like martial arts fight sequences, and the fact that he kind of blurs the lines between good and bad, because in most kind of like martial arts movies, especially from that era, and the Shaw Brothers movies, the bad guys tend to be the Qing. All the anti-Qing rebels are known as like the good guys and the heroes. The Han Chinese people are known as the heroes, whereas the Manchurian Qing government was always known as the bad guys and the oppressors. But this kind of like flipped the dynamics a bit, and kind of like showed that there is a grey area from where there could be good and bad people on both sides. 47 is Five Shaolin Masters, a 1974 film directed by Chung Che, starring T. Lung, David Chang, Fu Xing, Chi Kwon Chung, and Fei Meng Fei, and a host of others. Now, set after the Qing government had burnt down the Shaolin Temple. 5 layman disciples, which is like the disciples that were not actual monks, but they were still pretty much learning martial arts. They'd actually decided to take an oath together to take down the government and make Shaolin Kung Fu rise again. And also, they have to actually kind of like, they vowed to find the traitor in the midst that had actually kind of like led to all this these problems. And well, again, this was kind of like an early kind of like Chang's film company. One of the last films that Lau Kar Leung and Lau Kar Wing were the fight choreographers for when it comes to working with Chang Che. And yeah, I mean, it's like it's just a big kind of star-studded movie. It had so many great stars. The fight choreography, I mean, there's a fight like nearly every 5 minutes in this movie almost. And the whole story and the setup, it's pretty much, the story it tells is kind of seen in other movies, how, especially in the modern triad movies, where you see like the 5 masters who kind of took the oath together to bring down. So then you kind of got the hand symbols and stuff. So if you've seen movies like Election, where they come up with all these kind of like different kind of hand signals and whatnot, like different roles, and they're kind of using these codes and stuff, that was pretty much like, this movie is kind of showing like the history of how the triads had actually kind of like started, which were like an anti-Qing movement. And again, I mean, T. Lung is great. David Chang, again, them two together are just absolutely brilliant. Fu Xing himself provides like a really kind of like interesting kind of like characteristics, showing like the more younger, hot-headed one out of the 5 masters. And Chi Kwon Chun is someone who's like the more short-tempered, kind of aggressive type, but he still has like his morals. And even Wang Lung Wei and showing as like playing as a bad guy. You even see like Gordon Liu play like in a very small cameo appearance, like just like as like in a kind of like a rebel kind of who kind of gets killed, unfortunately. And you even got like Leng Kaiyan, aka Beardy, playing one of the bad guys. And it's just, the fights are really good. The fact that it kind of like draws you into this world, and it's just kind of this was it is definitely a fun movie. And I think it's released as Masters of Death, or 5 Masters of Death, by the World Northall Company.
Oh, so it's you guys again.
And lastly, we have The Thundering Mantis. Now, this is a 1980 film directed by Teddy Yip, starring Lung Kai-yan, Eddie Ko, and Chin Yut-sang. Now, it's about a kung fu obsessed fish merchant who has a good heart but always gets into trouble. He befriends a young pickpocket who is the grandson of a master who reluctantly agrees to teach this fish merchant, Archie, the Thundering Mantis Kung Fu style, in order to kind of like defeat a notorious gang called the Jade Brotherhood, who's kind of like stirring trouble in town. And what can I say about it? Now, this film, it was made in the wake of like the Kung Fu comedy boom, where Lung Kai-yan was pretty much just jumping on the whole bandwagon after Snake and Eagle Shadow, Drunken Master, and Fearless Hyena became like really big kind of like things, and Kung Fu comedy was the big phase at that moment in time. And it starts off pretty much just like that. It's going to be just like, it's kind of has a light-hearted feel to it at the start, but towards the end, this film just goes absolutely insane and dark. It just gets brutal and violence, and the bad guys are just so, especially Eddie Ko and his kind of like and his Jade Brotherhood gang are just absolutely kind of like just despicable people doing horrible atrocities, and like just the deaths and everything that happens in this movie, and the fact that, you know, when you see how like Archie just kind of goes beast mode at the end, and it's like, when it comes to like kung fu movies that I've seen, when it comes to like someone going beast mode at the end of the film, I mean, Thundering Mantis just goes batshit insane, and the choreography is great. I mean, the fact that Lung Kai-yan was not formally trained in martial arts at all, the fact that he just learned choreography, he was able to kind of make it look absolutely effortless and natural, and he just looked like an actual real martial artist, which was absolutely like insane. And this is definitely, I would say, one of his greatest achievements, and especially as the leading man in those old school kung fu movies. And you know, again, this is another one that needs an official Blu-ray release for this movie. This is an unsung classic. This needs to be seen by more people, especially with a brand new restoration. I've only ever seen it either on VHS, which was like a kind of like washed out VHS, or even like the DVD wasn't that great. But you need to see this movie, trust me. Well, anyway, this was my first 5 of my top 50 favorite kung fu movies. I do hope you check them out. Let me know what you thought of these movies if you've seen them, and I'd love to hear more from you, and see you on the next one. I've got to get back to work. Take care.